Welcome to our English news edition brought to you by Canal Algérie. I'm your host Manal Maafa. First, to the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Monday Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, the personal representative of the Emir of the Brotherly State of Qatar, who handed him the gold flagpole of the Arab Cup won by Algeria. As part of the state's efforts in its fight against corruption, the President of the Republic took several decisions after the ministerial meeting held on Sunday. Loyalty to the country and loyalty to the martyrs is the title of the latest issue of the editorial magazine of El Jaish, which discussed Algeria's regional environment and the threats surrounding it. The economic and social crisis in Morocco is getting worse. The Moroccans are opposing the bad decisions taken by the Makhzen regime, and the calls for protests are doubling. Good evening, those were today's headlines. First, in our news, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Monday Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, the personal representative of the Emir of the State of Qatar. On the occasion of this visit, the Sheikh handed over to the President of the Republic the golden flagpole of the Arab Cup, set with pearls, bearing the slogan of the competition and the colors of the national emblem. Algeria won the last edition of the Arab Cup.
ثقيلة شوي بس هي عبارة عن شعار البطولة وفيها طبعا كاس العرب وهذه كلها مذهب وهذا مرصع باللولو وهذه اللي كانت عنابية قلبناها خضراء بعد ما وفيها أحرف موطني اللي هي الأغنية العربية المشهورة كلها فيعني وطبعا يجي معاها العلم يجي معاها العلم وطبعا بحكم ان الجزائر هي ماخذة البطولة الآن السارية عندكم وممكن تحتفظون فيها وتسلمونها حق المستقبل إذا صارت بطولة ثانية. أنا ما أعرف إذا بتصير إن شاء الله. إن شاء الله.
هذه التقاليد أحسن تقاليد تقرب للشباب.
نعم.
شو اللي تفسد السياسة.
صحيح.
تصلحوا الرياضية.
شفنا كيف كانت الجماهير مع بعض.
أكيد.
شكرا لكم. إن شاء الله. شكرا.
The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, chaired over a meeting of the Council of Ministers on Sunday. The meeting was devoted to the examination of two draft laws on the fight against corruption and the modalities of exercising the right to organize trade unions. Let's follow the details with Karim Faz Zachary.
The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, chaired over a meeting of the Council of Ministers on Sunday. The meeting was devoted to the examination of two draft laws on the fight against corruption and the modalities of exercising the right to organize trade unions. Numerous presentations were made related to the mechanisms for appointing administrators at the level of communes where local elections have not taken place, in addition to the follow-up of the implementation of the decisions on the transfer and devolution to the public commercial sector of confiscated property. After the opening of the session, the President of the Republic installed the Inspector General of the State Services and local authorities at the Presidency of the Republic. Following the presentation of the government balance sheet of the last 2 weeks by the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, President Tebboune has given instructions concerning, firstly, corruption through the creation of a new body to investigate the signs of wealth of state officials without exception, As for trade unions' rights, the president insisted on the fact that the exercise of trade union rights is a fundamental basis of democracy, affirming that the revision of the law on trade unions will be carried out in the near future, complying with the resolution of the International Labour Office. He called for ensuring that the law takes into account the conditions for the true representativeness of trade unions involved in sectoral trade unions, created legal mechanisms for evaluating trade union activity. Concerning the mechanisms for the installation of administrators at the level of communes where local elections have not taken place, the President of the Republic insisted on the involvement of local civil society representatives in this provisional operation to ensure the management of communes and the preparation of partial elections as soon as possible. Concerning the census operation for the 2022, the President ordered the exploitation of new innovative local technologies relying on young skills in parallel with the commitment to economic recovery. The exemption of the underprivileged communes from the operations of restoration and equipment of schools and school canteens by integrating them in the project of revision of local authorities' code. Concerning the follow-up of the application of the resolutions related to the transfer of confiscated goods to the public sector, President Tebboune instructed the government to accelerate the final operation of inventory of the different confiscated goods to put them under the authority of the state. The President of the Republic also urged the Industry Ministry to follow and list the factories whose regulatory situation is in the process of regularization, but also to list the jobs created according to its financial value in national currency and foreign one. As for the transport sector, the President has ordered the opening of a maritime line with the Islamic Republic of Mauritania as soon as possible. Abdelmajid Tebboune insisted on the necessity to give a particular interest to this international event. Finally, the President of the Republic gave orientations to the government in order to associate the citizen to the local management and said he was satisfied with the measures taken, which allowed the relaunch of several factories and the lifting of the bureaucratic constraints in order to relaunch the economy.
The Bureau of the National People's Assembly held a meeting on Monday, headed by Ibrahim Boughali, the President of the Assembly. After that, the Bureau studied the oral and written questions tabled to it and sent those that met the legal requirements to the government. The Bureau also asked the Bureau of the Committee on Legal and Administrative Affairs and Freedoms, in accordance with its mandate, to prepare a draft amendment to the internal regime of the National People's Assembly in the light of the various constitutional amendments. Loyalty to the country and loyalty to the martyrs is the title of the editorial magazine of El Jaish in its latest issue. The editorial returns on the regional environment of our country, confronted with an increase of threats and gangers in relation to the deployment of terrorist groups and organized crime, correlatively the accentuation of the implementation of foreign agendas and military presence, to which is added the concretization by the Moroccan strategic servitude of the Zionist project. More details with Manal Ammari.
Dealing with hostile plans requires the mobilization of patriotic citizens around the state and the army to thwart the unveiled maneuvers which the Makhzen regime accustomed us to each time it found itself in difficult situations, and that the crises that shake it up are accentuated and suffocate its people and immerse them in disarray, destitution and anger due to the difficult conditions they endure in the towns and countryside. Restructuring the political regime following a constitutional approach based on rights and freedoms, participatory democracy, as well as the moralization of public life, aiming to improve the quality of service of the Algerian institutions, as the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, repeatedly stated during his meetings with representatives of the national press and members of the government. This approach is also based on the sacred mission of the National People's Army and security institutions. Algeria entered a new era supported by its army and people, who are determined more than ever under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, to defend its sovereignty, national unity and sovereign decisions. just as it is ready to face with rigor and determination all the sinister plans secretly and openly targeting the nation-state and its symbols by relying on its rich history and its steadfast principles and the unity of its valiant people who, whatever the circumstances, will stand alongside the rulers and state institutions as one to face all those attempting to harm Algeria. Furthermore, the mercenaries who throughout the year try in vain to tarnish the image of our institution and its command with shameless lies which our people keep projecting. A year just went by where many projects were launched for a better future, where citizens had to face a number of problems due to the COVID-19 pandemic and speculation practices of opportunistic traders. This year will bring many new projects in all areas, during which citizens will undoubtedly play the most important part in terms of well-being and prosperity.
Energy Minister Mohamed Arqab took part in the meeting of the Joint Technical Committee OPEC Plus held via video conference. Mohamed Arqab and other participants discussed the oil global market conditions. The meeting was held in anticipation of the ministerial meeting of the OPEC and its allies scheduled for Tuesday in the framework of the follow-up of the implementation of the OPEC Plus agreement. Linking the east to the south by rail, a major project that will soon see the light of day. One of the missing parts, the railway line linking Touggourt to the oil hub of Hassim Saoud. Once completed, it will reinforce the platform's logistics network. The details with Ines Kello.
The new Touggourt Hassim Saoud railway line is part of the major project of the Southeast Railway Loop. The project includes 4 main lines linking the provinces of Lerwat, Ghardaya, Wirgla and El Wed on a linear distance of 560 kilometers. Once in service, this line will start a new dynamic and will allow the social-economic development of all these regions through their opening up. This line will also ensure a link of the oil pole of Hassim Saoud, which will be of great benefit for the region. Entrusted to a group of national companies, the work of the Touggourt Hassim Saoud railway line, launched in 2013, has been greatly delayed due to several constraints exacerbated by the health situation.
The companies Infrafair and Infrarail are in charge of setting up the railway line. GCB is in charge of earthworks and road constructions, drainage and sanitation. The construction of engineering structures is entrusted to Sir West. The study of the project has been entrusted to Trail Design Office.
With a speed of 220 kilometers per hour for passenger trains and 100 kilometers per hour for those transporting goods, this project will greatly contribute to the creation of a logistical and industrial base to boost the national economy.
Following the decision of the President of the Republic and within the framework of the government's efforts to reinforce the current program of Air Algérie flights to various international destinations, the Ministry of Transport announces the increase of the number of flights between Algeria and Tunisia to 1 daily flight between the two countries instead of 3 flights per week. This operation is part of the measures decided for the benefit of our community residing in Tunisia under the title of facilitating its travel between the two countries. In the framework of their reciprocity, the Tunisian side benefits from the same number of flights between the two countries, which is 1 flight per day. The border crossing is also subject to the presentation of the vaccination passport, in addition to the respect of the other sanitary conditions applicable to all travelers, namely to present a negative RT-PCR test for less than 36 hours and carry out an antigen test on entry. Lately, the province of Bashar has been experiencing a dynamic thanks to the projects launched in the development of border areas. These landlocked regions of strategic importance benefited from new infrastructures. The details with Ines Kello.
Particular attention has been given to Bashar province, more precisely in the border region of Beni Wanif, which has benefited from many projects within the framework of the development of grey zones. Once completed, these projects will significantly improve the living conditions of the residents.
This region has benefited from several projects, the most important of which is the construction of a 60-bed hospital, and several projects are underway in the education sector and in a road development.
Moreover, the project of connecting the locality of Gatarani to the electricity grid has been concretized. In addition to the road works, the connection to the gas network, projects which aim at opening up this region.
We were about to leave this region, but the work of connecting to the gas network and electricity were finally realized today, and we are very happy.
A budget of 1.5 billion dinars is allocated by the state in 2021 for the realization of structuring projects of local development, has social and economic aim in the grey areas.
373 new confirmed cases of coronavirus, 274 recoveries, and 7 deaths have been recorded in the last 24 hours in Algeria, according to a communiqué released by the Ministry of Health on Monday. To regional news now, the social-economic situation in Morocco keeps worsening, and with the deficit in trade balance which stirred up unrest in all sectors, the northern neighboring country is witnessing a massive popular anger expressed by protests against the monarch's policy. Karim Faz Zachary with the details.
The economic and social crisis keeps worsening in Morocco, proving the bad management of the monarchy, disowned by its people, and a true Moroccan decline. The Alawite dictatorship fabricates brilliant accusations, uses prostitutes and everything to stifle free votes. I repeatedly said it. The solution to all the problems of Moroccans, either sanitary, social or political, the only solution is to take to the streets. There is no peace or reform for this royal mafia. The government is a criminal dictator. You should not deal with them because they are criminal, murderers, terrorists and thieves. If you deal with them, you're like them. The only solution is to bring down the system. An indicator of an economic slump, the commercial deficit of Morocco was aggravated by 26.4% during the year of 2021 of nearly $20 billion by the end of November, according to the indicators related to exterior exchanges published by the Makhzen's Exchanges Office. In this country, which is strongly dependent on hydrocarbon imports, foodstuffs, products, goods and equipment imports have increased by 24% in comparison to the end of November 2020, i.e. more than $51 billion. This economic malaise shook the country and pushed the Makhzen regime to resort to foreign loans. The Moroccan author Amin Bouchaib underlined in an article that Morocco, because of its incapacity, mobilized supplementary financial resources responding to the evolution of state expenditure of the state. This forced it to continuously resort to loans from the International Monetary Fund. Thus, Morocco is obliged to comply with all the dictates of the IMF. According to him, the costs of these debts go beyond the main social budget and hinders all kinds of true social and human development. Hence, the vulnerable category and employees will pay for the austerity measures and suffer the consequences of poverty, wage freeze, unemployment and marginalization. In this country marked by numerous inequalities, an unfair distribution of wealth and many social ills, the popular granary doesn't weaken. A situation exacerbated by the measures taken by the new government led by Aziz Akhnouch, and which have negative social repercussions, especially in the field of employment and labor market. Political parties such as the Progress and Socialism Party and the Socialist Union of People's Forces Party are sounding the alarm as to the deteriorating situation, particularly in rural and mountainous areas, suggesting a structural imbalance in several areas such as health, education and agriculture. Indeed, the Moroccan kingdom has been marked in the recent months by turmoil and several protest movements violently repressed by the Moroccan law enforcement authorities, who, along with the Makhzen regime, were accused of serious human rights violations. Faced by a more and more worsening situation, Moroccans keep demanding the departure of the monarch, a king who wasted the wealth of his country and people, turning his back to them.
Morocco is still refusing to acknowledge the migration crisis the country is going through. The authorities of Ceuta city indicated that Morocco is refusing cooperation in the repatriation process of unaccompanied Moroccan minors who, after a mass migration, have been in the Spanish enclave since last May. Continuous military operations are being carried out along the Wall of Shame in Western Sahara. Units of the Sahrawi Liberation Army bombed the positions of the Moroccan occupation forces in the sectors of Hawza and El Mahbas. Those were our news for today. Thank you for joining us and goodbye.